All right, welcome back. Today we are talking about, of course, we are all physically distanced, but we've brought together a great panel from our Bolingbrook community that serves our Bolingbrook community already, talking about being mentally strong and some great coping mechanisms, just some great topics that I know are on the mind of everyone right now, given the COVID-19 situation. So I'm going to introduce these folks individually right before they talk. But they are three people that have been dedicated to community for a while. I followed them social media wise and their websites. It seems fantastic. So each of them has a different topic today. And then we'll kind of end at the end with an all-encompassing positive message for the community. So starting us off is Jenna Fash. Jenna, take it away.
All right. So I am just going to give a little overview on the anxious response a lot of people have probably had to the coronavirus. And anxiety is a very broad topic. I'm going to try to shorten it down to these specifics. So I think we've all seen, really since the onset of the virus, just an anxious response in society and in our community. And it comes in waves as we go through different stages with this pandemic. But there's a lot of common reactions that people are having. So I thought first I could just kind of cover some of the reactions people are having and then go over some quick coping mechanisms too. So from a thought-based perspective, we're seeing a lot of people have very anxious thoughts, very catastrophic in nature, all or nothing in nature. You know, for example, I'm stuck in the house, the stores are closed, I can't get resources, it's going to be like this forever, I'm scared I'm going to get this, or someone I love is going to get this, or it's never going to end. And from there, we're seeing a variety of different emotions, the anxiety, the fear, the panic set in, almost a traumatic response for some people. And it includes sadness, depression, there's some grief and loss in this too, and certainly some confusion. And with those emotions comes a variety of behaviors. So that's where we see some of these extreme behaviors like the hoarding of supplies that happened at the beginning. We've seen even like some shaming behaviors going on in society of what other people are doing. We're seeing a lot of the isolation happen. And then even just some chaotic behaviors, you know, confusion can breed chaos and people aren't really sure what to do. So I'm certainly seeing a lot of those reactions. So I think it's really critical that we start the conversation about how to cope with what's going on, especially with anxiety, and really start to change the language a little bit to one that's more supportive and encouraging. So with that, certainly with your thoughts, quick and easy things that people can do. Try to catch those anxious thoughts when they're happening, those worst case scenario thoughts, the all or nothing ones I mentioned, and do some quick reframes and some quick affirmations in the moment, like I'm safe at home, I'm prepared with what I have, I cannot control what I cannot control, and I will control what I can. This will pass. I will take one day at a time. Just in the moment, being able to implement thoughts like that can be very helpful and very distracting too for people. I'm also encouraging people to avoid media exposure in excess, especially any exposure that's not based off of legitimate facts and figures, and just really encouraging people to think about how are you feeling after you're exposing yourself to the media or scrolling through your news feeds. How did that sit with you? Did it make you feel better? Did it make you feel worse? And is it a good idea to continue doing something like that? And really paying attention to the credible resources, you know, the CDC, the World Health Organization, and our public figures that are really kind of leading the charge on this to give us the right information. From an emotional standpoint, I think it's critical people develop some daily self-care routines to de-stress. Go for a walk, take a bubble bath, all of those common things you would think off the cusp are really good things to get in the habit of doing almost daily if you can. Certainly focusing on your mental health right now. Reach out to us therapists. We are all here to help and want to support everybody through this. We've all got, I think, these telehealth sessions going, so it's very easy to get an appointment set up. And talk about your feelings. Don't hold them in. Don't sit with them and isolate yourself. And engage as much as you can in different relaxation, meditation, yoga exercises, just to de-stress and release some of that anxiety. And lastly, I think a couple of these aspects will be touched on more, but stay connected with people, family, friends, your communities, A lot of, churches, schools, the groups you normally participate in are all doing these Zoom meetings to stay connected and see people face to face. It's so critical that you do that. Create structure and routine and stick with it. Try to get that going on a daily basis. Stay busy, and most importantly, exercise. Get out there, enjoy some fresh air, work out in your home, whatever you need to do, keep your mind and body active. And just remember that there's a lot of people out there to support you.
Jenna, I appreciate that so much. And just for everyone, I will include all of their contact information in this video. So it'll be right in the thread of this video in case you need to reach out to them, or in case something that they said today really caught your attention. I'm sure they'd be more than happy to chat with you. So that information will be included for you to be able to reach out to these folks as you need that. Jenna, thank you for that. I appreciate that very much. And if the weather can just go back to being nice, we can all enjoy some sanctuary space in our backyards. But today, unfortunately, it's a little chilly out there. Thank you, Jenna. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Next up, I want to invite Kara Olimene. I hope I got that right. She corrected me right before. Kara does some great work with some of the nonprofits that I actually do a little bit of work with. So I appreciate her joining us today. I'm gonna go ahead and unmute her, and Kara, you can go ahead and take it away.
Great, thank you so much. I wanted to just share a little bit of information about how to help your children through this pandemic. I'm noticing a lot of families are overwhelmed with the homeschooling issue, myself included. I'm super stressed out. But besides the stress and overwhelming with getting kids on task academically, I'm noticing that we're also forgetting a little bit about making sure that kids' mental health matters. For example, I had a neighbor approach me and say that their 7-year-old came home the last day of school before school closed and said, "Mom, my friend told me that if you get corona, you're gonna die." And that gave me pause, because it made me really think about how many of our kids are hearing online or with their friends in their neighborhood or that last day of school misinformation, and their kids are kids. They're not totally communicating with us. So how much fact or fiction is going on in their head? That can be pretty dangerous. And we want to make sure kids have the opportunity to express their feelings as well. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about some tips for that. If you think about that mom who said, my son said he heard from his friend that if you get coronavirus, you're going to die. Think about how important it is to be honest with your kids. Obviously, you want to be honest, but age appropriate at the same time. Because if we're talking to our kids and telling them kind of like soft truths or things that are a little bit more fantasy based, they're still going to hear some basis of truth from friends or online. So we want to make sure that we're honest with them, but in a way they understand. So when I talked to this neighbor of mine, we talked about, well, what does he need to know? How can you make him feel safe, but also make him feel like he knows what's going on? So we had a conversation about kids who are between, 6, 7, and 8 years old. It's important to tell them, yes, there is a virus out there. Yes, we're all trying to be safe and healthy. Another phrase I told her to use is tell him that the world is sick. We're all trying to wait for the world to get better. And so while we're waiting for the world to get better, we're all going to stay with our families to make sure we're all safe and we don't get any more of the virus that's out there in the world. So, and that's a good example of how we are trying to be honest, but very age appropriate as well. Another really good hint I am telling some of my families that I work with is to be able to get kids to verbally express their feelings. But a lot of kids don't want to talk. If a mom says to the kids in the morning, "How are you feeling?" "Fine, Mom, leave me alone," right? Or they'll just kind of grunt at you and try to go back to playing their video games. So especially some of these younger kids, I would add a little task with their homeschooling, one of maybe at the beginning or the end. Say, okay, first things first, we're going to draw a picture of how we feel today. You can either draw a picture of how you feel or how you think your brother feels. Anything that's going to give them a specific task to talk or write about a feeling. And so if they write or color a picture, then our job is to ask an open-ended question. Tell me about that. Oh, that looks like a really angry color. Is that angry? Am I right? Or is that a different kind of feeling that you're drawing? Just to generate a discussion about it. Kids who are a little bit older, I encourage them to do a journal entry. This can be added into one of their schoolwork tasks as well. Write a journal entry, 2 questions. What are you doing today to feel happy? And then second question, is there anything today that you're worried about? So this gives them a way to express themselves without maybe necessarily being verbal, which is sometimes hard for kids to do this day and age. So I think those are some really good things to do. Don't assume that your kids are okay because they're not acting sad. Kids, again, they're learning from other people in their environment that it's kind of like a bad thing to talk about uncomfortable or sad feelings. They learn that from the world. So by showing that, yes, I'm worried too. Isn't it sad that the world's sick? You're generating that environment that lets them know it's okay to talk about feelings. We just want to make sure that we're honoring where the kids are at. And if they need to feel sad, if they need to feel angry, then they can do that. Some parents have adopted some of the language that they're learning from their schools. I've heard some of the elementary schools in the area, when kids are hyper or maybe misbehaving or something like that, some classrooms use a calm corner where kids are able to go for a few minutes and relax. So maybe that's something you can implement at home. Designate a place where kids can go and calm down. Or maybe if it's just their room. So if they're having a temper tantrum, or if they're hyper, or if they're having trouble calming down, you can say, okay, it's time to go to the calm corner, just like Mrs. Williams, the teacher or whatever. Just like Miss Williams says, go to the calm corner, come back in 5 minutes. That not only helps them stick with the school routine, but allows them to feel safe. And then also, I know we're going to post a link to the social story that I talked about, but this is a really good social story that explains the coronavirus, and it's also made in a comic book fashion, so it can probably be good from kids age 7 to 13 will get something out of it. I know we'll have the link at the end, but if you just Google NPR COVID comment or COVID comic, it'll be the very first thing on Google. So also you can do that as well. But I think that'll be really beneficial for kids to do too, or even kids who maybe have some cognitive challenges. That's something that you could read almost every day with them to get them on task and to help them with some of the questions that they're asking. But I think those are some really good tips that we can use.
I appreciate that, Kara, so much. And it's been so, I have a 2-year-old at home. He's 2.5. But it's just interesting to see, my wife had a birthday party, and my parents drove by, an adult birthday parade, and him not being able to embrace them was so different and so unique. So coming out of this, it's definitely gonna be interesting, and I think some of those techniques of talking about it now is going to be important. So thank you for sharing those, and we definitely will link to that. And,
one more thing, and then
yeah,
with your son, or praising him too. Like if you're saying, oh, you can't hug grandma right now, or for example, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. You're doing such a good job keeping grandma safe. Even that is so powerful because you're validating him and letting him see that he's playing a role in what's going on.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Next up, Matt Glowiak. Let me unmute him. I think I got that correct. Matt, welcome today.
Yes, thank you, Michael. So one of the things I'm going to talk about here for a few moments is that of social distancing. And I know social distancing is one of those things we hear probably up to 1,000 times a day. Every time you turn on the news, you speak to family members and friends, you do a Google search, social distancing is popping up, and it's probably the catchphrase of the year 2020. Now, there's a few things that we do have to consider with social distancing. First and foremost, I cannot stress the importance of social distancing enough. Unfortunately, it's one of those things that we absolutely have to do to be able to curb this pandemic that we have to get through right now. And as we see, especially in states like Washington, we're starting to finally flatten the curve here, and then we'll be able to resume life and normal as we continue to go forward here. Now, one of the things that's going to be really important to understand with the social distancing is that there's not going to be an immediate response. As a matter of fact, over the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks or so, we are going to see an increase in cases as more people are being tested, more people are being infected, and so on. But then it will continue to tail off to where we can get to a much better point and resume life as we had before. So it is extremely, extremely important that we do what we need to do now to be able to get to the place we want to be later on. So it's very important. Now, the irony with this is at the same time, I believe that social distancing is probably one of the most stressful parts of COVID-19. You know, in addition to the fear of COVID-19, getting sick, perhaps losing loved ones and so on, the social distancing is creating as much, if not even more stress in the actual disease itself. So with that, we see a lot of individuals going into a state of panic, experiencing intense states of anxiety, experiencing depression, and so on and so forth. Now, it's rather ironic as a clinician, because what are some of the number one things that we recommend in terms of coping skills? Well, if you're feeling depressed or anxious, speak to a loved one, speak to a best friend, have a laugh, get together, go out, do something different. But now here we are in a very stressful situation, and we're encouraging individuals to socially distance. Now, this other term has been thrown around quite a bit, and I think that this might be even more appropriate, because the thing we need to consider here is when we say social distancing, we're actually referring more so to physical distancing. So don't be within 6 feet of other individuals. You know, if you wear a face mask, have your gloves, so on and so forth. We don't want to pass the symptoms, because one of the things we know as well, even if you're asymptomatic, which means that you're a carrier but not showing the symptoms yet, other people can get sick. And that's the huge measure that we have right now, because not everybody understands that if they're not showing symptoms, that doesn't mean that they're safe here. So want to take more of a look at it as being physical distancing necessarily than social distancing, because in terms of the social aspect, we really should be encouraging the individuals socialize more than ever. Now, there's going to certainly be some changes to that as we see, but fortunately with technology and all these other mediums that we have today, there are a lot of different practical options that you can utilize to be able to still continually engage one another, and do so not only as much as you used to do before, but even more so than ever. You know, so for instance, right now what we're doing with this telemental health webinar that we have, Zoom is a really great resource. I know recently Zoom has been hacked into, and there's been some concerns with that. So we do need to be safe with the security measures we have, you know, using video conferencing type measures, you know, utilizing the phone, being able to reach out to people, make phone calls, reach out to family members you haven't spoken to in a while. You know, for individuals who are concerned about parents, grandparents, and other elderly individuals in nursing homes and so on, you know, make a point to reach out to these individuals, whether it is a phone call, sending a text message, utilizing some type of video platform for a one-on-one conversation, or even doing a family type conversation, whether that's through FaceTime, Skype, or other type of platform you like to use. You know, other little things that you could do, which is something we do in our family, and I have a 2- and 4-year-old at home, and my son is continually expressing how much he misses preschool and can't see his friends. Well, it's been great, because every single week his preschool class has like a little Zoom meeting, and they could see one another. But other things that we've done is every single day we'll have a theme day. So maybe we'll all wear Disney pajamas one day. The next day we'll have a family movie day. The next day we'll have some type of video conference where we have other family members, aunts, uncles get involved. You know, with TV shows, if you've always been used to meeting up with people and watching TV shows together, you know, you can just have the TV show going. You can all watch it and talk about it in the background while you're on your phone. All these types of things go a long way. You know, we see people even going as far as wanting to get out of the house, you know, drive your car around town. Roll down the windows, get some fresh air on the nice days, certainly not today with all the wind and cold that we have right now and upcoming rain. You know, go outside. If you have a backyard, enjoy that. Take a walk around the neighborhood. But again, make sure that you are utilizing proper care and keeping physically distant from these other individuals. But there are so many different things that we could be doing right now, and it's so important that we're as connected, if not even more than ever, to be able to get through this, because again, that's the number one coping skill we have. And I see people in terms of their mental health being compromised right now. And it has actually more to do with the social distancing aspect than even the fears of the COVID-19 itself. So we really do need to keep that in mind.
Matt, I appreciate that very much, and you are exactly correct. I have on the family front, I have seen some really neat extended family Zooms. I think there are some people that are probably hopefully talking to family more often, like you said, than even normally. I think that's been a benefit of something that we didn't realize what's important in life, and it was folks that we always should have been reaching out to, but now we just kind of feel like we have nothing else to do, so we should talk to our family.
Absolutely. And in the communication that we have, it doesn't always need to be doom and gloom, look into the worst case scenario. You know, like we said, there's a lot of great resources out there, but there's a lot of terrible resources out there as well. You know, so making sure that you do your diligence in finding the appropriate facts, but, you know, even finding some humor in the situation and, you know, enjoying some of the memes that are out there. I see posts on Facebook of people doing silly things, different challenges, stuff like that to try to entertain other people around them. That stuff goes a really long way, because laughter, again, is another really great coping skill to be able to help people work through this type of situation. So whatever it is that works for you, be sure to utilize it. But above all, do be real in what you're feeling. Like everybody said, if something doesn't feel right or you notice something doesn't seem right with another person, do talk about it. You know, all of us are stressed to a greater or lesser extent right now. We're all in this together. So a lot of the feelings that we have are quite similar, and we can relate in that way. And this is a huge opportunity for our nation, actually globally, you know, for us all to be able to band together, make the best of a very difficult situation, hopefully pull out of it even more connected than we ever were before.
That is incredibly a nice transition to exactly how I was going to kind of wrap this up. Is these three great local professionals here in our community, and all of us together truly are in it together. I know it's a hashtag and it's a little bit of a cliche today, but let me tell you, it's a great cliche to have, because truly each of us are impacting each other more than ever during this. So Jenna, Kara, Matt, I truly appreciate all of you hopping on. Anything else that either wasn't said or that you thought of that we should tie up before we cut you loose?
I don't think so.
All right. I agree. I appreciate it. And again, this we'll include some resources in the links here. We'll post this up on the Bolingbrook Strong landing page as well. You just go to bolingbrook-events.com. You click on Bolingbrook Strong. This video will be there along with a few other videos that we've done, and frankly, a few new videos that'll be up in the next few days that we've already recorded. So I appreciate that, and everyone have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.